This Brewer Mag podcast is sponsored by Keg Logistics. Now's the perfect time to review your keg management strategy. Whether you're seeking a truly flexible keg rental program or intrigued by the seamless distribution freedom of paper fill, Keg Logistics is ready to craft a personalized solution for you, ensuring you receive the kegs you need precisely when you need them. For details, visit keglogistics.com/brewermag. Keg Logistics, modern solutions for keg efficiency.
I'm Jon Sicotte, Executive Editor of the Brewer Magazine. Welcome to another edition of the Brewer Magazine podcast. We are sponsored by Keg Logistics. You can go to keglogistics.com/brewermag for more details. And of course, you can like and subscribe. The Brewer Magazine podcast available on both YouTube and on Spotify, and at brewermag.com 24 hours a day for your business resource needs. Well, I'm in Green Bay, Wisconsin, as I'm taking some vacation, and thought, you know what? It's been a while since I was covering the Green Bay Packers as an 18-year-old some 30 years ago. And, well, by chance, when I was here reporting as a Cub reporter, a brewery was just opening up in Green Bay. And now I finally get to talk to founder and CEO Bill Tressler of Hinterland Brewing. It's been 30 years, Bill, since you guys opened. We are in the Titletown district now. We're going to get through all of this. It's great to have you here on the podcast. Thanks so much.
It's fun to be here.
So, yeah, it's a 30-year anniversary. You guys just celebrated it a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah. Memorial Day weekend.
Memorial Day weekend. And 30 years has gone by. Many things have changed. You've been a part of the beer industry for a long time. Let's talk about just the evolution of craft beer as it was in Wisconsin over these 3 different decades, and how has Hinterland kind of played a role, do you think, in that, whether it's you guys leading the charge or you're helping build the scene?
I mean, we weren't the first. Obviously, you had breweries like Sprecher and Lakefront, and New Glarus was like a year ahead of us or something like that. But Lakefront and Sprecher had some time on us, and those guys were really truly pioneers in Wisconsin craft. Anyway, my beginning in the beer industry really was started more in California, San Francisco, Bay Area, a little bit in Colorado, and then I basically moved home because Wisconsin's all about beer, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing is, I think a lot of people don't know, or maybe they see those maps and they kind of laugh, but it's true. Per capita, there's a lot of counties in Wisconsin that are the top 50, and obviously Wisconsin, the per capita. So, but the thing is, and I've said this before, it's not always just because you can open a brewery in Wisconsin and bam, it's going to be a hit, because you are still fighting with macro. But at the same time, people seem to be a little more receptive because, hey, I'll try that beer. How have you guys built yourself, through just the fact knowing that, well, there is definitely a population here that can drink?
I mean, it is. That's what it was. I think we just did it one case of beer at a time, but it wasn't as easy as everybody would like to think it was. I mean,
sure.
There was a point in time where I just set out with our old box truck, and I would stop at I had a list of every single liquor license in the state, and I would just knock off, certain regions of the state at one time, and you would go in and people would say, "Hey man, we don't drink dark beer in here," and kindly leave, and you're like, "Oh, okay." But for every one of those, there was another one down the road that was interested. You know what I mean? So that's why it worked. But it was uphill sledding for sure.
Sure. Since that, what stands as the defining moment in this 30 years that you guys have had? Do you see somewhere that was like, this put us on the projection, or we made the right third, or was it like that slow, steady growth?
Slow. It was slow, and it was hard.
Mm-hmm.
It was not. There's not any one thing that I would say was like the magic, deal, and it still isn't. We still every day we sit down as a team and we figure out where we need to improve, and but I think the key might have been just that, but we were willing to evolve, and we were willing to change the model to make it work any way we had to survive. We were willing to go there,
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe with the exception of cutting corners and making something really, not very nice, but we're very into authentic, ways of production, and then just listening to people, listening to what people were saying, listening to what customers were asking for, and just kind of trying to be a little bit better every day.
Speaking of adjustments and being able to, move around and try different things, have you guys always had the same business model? How did it start? Like, I mean, now you guys kind of have that full restaurant, tap room in a busy area, but it didn't start that way.
No, it sure didn't. I mean, we started out as a production brewery, basically, albeit very small. And we started with a 7-barrel brew house, which was kind of the thinking in the day. Like, people would say to you, you'll never outgrow a 7-barrel, or I mean, a 15-barrel system, and that was kind of funny, you know what I mean? But like, I think that it was just, there was just a lot of changes that we made along the way. First we started just packaging beer, and then we decided, like, in around 2018, thought we needed more of an on-premise thing to happen, and we were way out in the countryside. So we bought a building in downtown Green Bay, and we renovated it and made more of an atmosphere where people could come and visit the brewery. And then in 2000, we added a restaurant. So it was kind of a constant evolution, and even today, obviously we kind of moved from our downtown location to this facility at Lambeau Field, where we're now we rent from the Packers. The Packers are our landlord. Downtown we owned the property, and we could do what we wanted there. It's a little more complicated here. Obviously, the Packers let us build a building here and gave us the money to build a building, but then we rent it back from them. So in a lot of ways, we could create kind of a dream scenario, but at the same time, there's rent comes due on the back end, which is also interesting. So.
Yeah, and it is that time in craft beer that a lot of people are saying, like, it's hard to have a landlord. Maybe is it a little bit different than maybe you've talked to other people that do have landlords versus buying or owning your own property? You've kind of seen both ways of it. Do you like it? Do you wish that you guys could do that?
I mean, I don't know. It's not really the same, I don't think, as like just having any random landlord.
Exactly.
The Packers were very purposeful of putting us here when they did. They sought us out. They asked us to move here, and it was kind of like just trust us sort of conversation, and they've been amazing to us. So it's I know, like, during COVID, a lot of people were regretting having a landlord or getting rent increased or something happened. Maybe some months not forgiven or something along those lines, or any kind of abatement. It's just not the same situation. The Packers are a nonprofit organization. They kind of view things very differently than a typical landlord would. So
sure.
So it's been helpful, I would say.
Yeah, and it obviously, having such a legendary franchise show you that you have value to them.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I mean, how was that conversation at the beginning?
It was very insane. I mean, to be honest with you, that might have been one of the turning points where I thought, okay, we've probably done something interesting, or worthy of some credit. And when we signed the lease with the Packers, and Mark Murphy made an announcement that us and Lodge Kohler and Bell and Health were going to be their 3 partners on this massive project that they were doing, as a hometown kid, it felt pretty unreal. I was very flattered and emotional about it, to be honest with you. I mean, it was something very cool.
Yeah, like you said, you're a hometown kid. What's it like watching Green Bay develop into what it is today, along with the beer scene? Like, you guys have kind of been one of those cornerstones to the Green Bay beer scene, and how have you seen that evolve?
I mean, it's I would say the first 10 years there was nothing. You know what I mean? It was basically us and Titletown Brewing Company, and there wasn't a lot of attention paid to either one of us, I don't think. But now I think there's upwards of like 10 or 12 breweries in the area. And I would say like maybe 5 or 6 years ago is when it really got kind of like became a community, and that was pretty cool. And it's nice to have other brewers in the area. Um, and we're all a little bit different. We all do things differently. We all make very, very different beers for the most part. But yeah, it's nice. I mean, it feels like for a long time it felt like we were just on an island by ourselves, and all of the most popular brewers in the state were down near Milwaukee or Madison, and we were kind of lonely up here, in the northeastern part of the state. So it's nice to have a community of brewers out there.
Let's talk about the beer. What influenced you at the beginning? How have you guys adapted, changed, or had people come to you? That seems to be one of the things now that I think people are learning. Hey, there's these beers that don't have all these crazy adjuncts that taste delicious.
Yeah.
Where are you guys as a brewery, and who are you as a brewery?
It's a good question. I mean, I think it's definitely changed over the years for sure. I would say 3 decades later. I mean, what interested me at the time that I started the brewery may not be my influence now. Obviously, I mean, at the time we were interested in replicating a lot of old world styles from either the UK or from Germany or Belgium or something like that. And I think that still is guides us in some way, kind of the old world styles. But I mean, American craft has become something completely different. It's become sort of what all of the other countries around the world seek. And I say that with a little bit of knowledge because we've started to export a little bit, and it's fascinating when you go to another country and all they want is American IPA. You know what I mean? You're like, really? Okay. But I would say that as far as beer styles that we make, we listen to our customers a lot. We hear like in our tap room what some of the locals want, or we also as brewers talk about what we'd like to produce, and we try different things. But there's been a lot of trends over the years, everything from barrel aging to sours to first the most bitter IPAs you can make to now the least bitter IPAs you can make, and hazy and whatever. You know what I mean? So I would say that we've always tried to stay relevant in beer styles, but at the end of the day, we do have the core beers that we make, and we're one of those few breweries that have, probably our best-selling beer is Cherry Wheat, which is a very fruit-forward beer made with local Montmorency cherries, and it's sort of the anti-IPA, which is kind of a nice thing to lead with sometimes because everybody's out there competing for the IPA lines in every single bar, whatever. And when you walk in and you're like, hey, anybody want to try a Cherry Wheat? Chances are the response is pretty good. Surprisingly, I mean, people are like, yeah, actually, that sounds good. So
yeah. Well, and we haven't even touched on the aspect that you came from a different part of the beer world. You were an editor at Beer the Magazine. Yeah. Tell me about and thank you. We love being able to talk to people that have written about beer before and seen the different styles. I think you probably have a little bit of a different thought process behind some of the craziness that we see over the years, because you're like, I've seen some of this already. It was just on a smaller scale because craft beer was smaller. How did you get into writing and editing for the magazine?
It was kind of by chance. I was working for the San Francisco Chronicle right out of college, and the paper went on strike about a year in, or maybe a year and a half in. And I just, before everybody walked out on strike, I got an invite from Bill Owens, who was a famous photographer actually, but also brewer
Mhm.
in the Bay Area. And he invited me to a Bach beer tasting in Berkeley, and it was kind of an interesting thing. I ended up going. I brought a buddy. We went to the current editor of or the editor at the time. His name was Fred Dodsworth House, and and Bill had invited like a small group of maybe like 30 people to come and taste Bach beer along with Bruce Adele's sausage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and Bruce was just starting his company at that time, and so he was trying to get sausage in as many mouths as he possibly could,
Right.
tasting these different things. And so he had made some kind of special sausage for to pair up with all the Bach beer and whatnot. Anyway, it was a lot of fun, and for some reason, Bill Owens and the editor of the magazine, Fred Dodsworth, were really like sparring at the time. They were having some heated arguments about, I don't know, the direction of the magazine or money or something. I'm not really sure what it was. And Bill was frustrated that night and just kind of launched you want to edit a magazine at me? And I was like, yeah, actually I do. And so I don't know if he was serious at the time, but he did call me the couple days after, and we started talking, and one thing led to another, and that was that. But I mean, we're talking like this is 1994 ish.
Sure.
I mean, it was pretty early in craft, but craft was really starting to happen, in the Bay Area. So it was a really cool time to be involved.
Yeah.
There was like, I mean, some of my favorite breweries that still to this day were really doing some cool stuff. So.
Sure. Did those early years seeing beer like that, did it have any impact on how you wanted to run the brewery a couple years later?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and not that I necessarily could really emulate what each and every one of those breweries was doing,
Sure.
but it was certainly inspiration for sure.
Mhm.
And being able to travel around and see like everybody's plants and what everybody was using and just what they were brewing was really cool.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What do you think about I mean, there's so much more coverage now. I mean, do you consume a lot of beer writing because the fact that you have that background? I mean, what?
I don't know if it's because I have that background, but I to be totally honest, I don't think there's enough coverage of especially kind of in mainstream media. I mean, I'm a Apple phone addict, so I have like subscribed to like everything under the sun, trying to find out more about what's going on in other cities and whatnot. And to be honest with you, I think there's a lot of like kind of puffy pieces on beer, but like not a lot about the business of brewing or I mean, there's obviously good technical articles that are being written about beer all the time that you can dive into, but like, yeah, I try to consume everything I can. You know what I mean? I love listening to podcasts. I love listening to, even just some of the brewers have written some pretty good books over the year that are very entertaining to read. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm assuming you've read a lot of them. I mean, is there someone that really stuck out that wrote a book? Jim Cook's done it. Sierra Nevada's had theirs. Is there someone that you're like, well, that was a fun read, or you learned something?
I think Sam was like kind of the one whose story like resonated most closely to mine.
Sure.
It was just a lot of like insanity in the early days, and there was times where I was just like full on laughing because it was like practically identical to my story. I felt like,
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, it's gone through a lot of different iterations. You guys have been in different buildings. What did each move change or like teach you about change in the industry, or help, we're going to grow this way instead? I mean, was it needed, or because it was something that was just offered, available, and we're going to drive into that now?
This Brewer Mag podcast is sponsored by Keg Logistics. Now's the perfect time to review your keg management strategy. Whether you're seeking a truly flexible keg rental program or intrigued by the seamless distribution freedom of paper fill, Keg Logistics is ready to craft a personalized solution for you, ensuring you receive the kegs you need precisely when you need them. For details, visit keglogistics.com/brewermag. Keg Logistics, modern solutions for keg efficiency.
I think everything was it was always a focus on how do we get the quality to be better, you know. And I mean, it was really like I mean, from the get-go, we were always very focused on quality beer, but like, you know, let's be honest with you, like the budget just kept getting larger, you know what I mean? And so we had more money to spend on this and more money to spend on that. So automation and you know, lab equipment, whatever. I mean, like all of it became more possible as we've grown and changed locations and you know, added different things and you know, like when I started out, if I thought I had ever would have owned a centrifuge or you know what I mean, a pasteurization, flash pasteurizer, or anything like that, like, you know, I probably wouldn't have ever expected, you know, to be able to afford equipment like that. But like, you know, when you start packaging and shipping beer far and away, you start saying, you know, how can I make the beer better? How can I make it last longer? How can I make it taste as fresh as possible when, you know, somebody opens it, you know, all the way across the world?
Yeah. Speaking of that, that's what I was going to ask you. Between distribution, you guys have, you know, opened up a little bit in the United States going around there, but now, you know, I heard you guys were at CBC talking about exporting to Japan. What's been the situation there, and you know, what's the export business? What are you learning?
I guess Japan is the one that popped first. We've been exploring the idea of exporting for a lot of years, and I think that simultaneously to us like doing that research, we've also made investments in the brewery so that when the opportunity came, we could do that. You know, let's face it, I love to travel, but like I also have you know, have taken some inspiration from some different people in the wine world, and I happened to be like, some people brought Michelle and I on a wine trip a few years back, well, more than a few years back, but to France to taste, you know, certain wines, and one of the guys that we were sitting with at one point in time, this gentleman who owned, his name is Pascal Jolivet, and anyway, he was a very good French Loire, you know, winemaker, and I asked him how much wine or how much of his wine he sells in France, and he looked at me like I was crazy, and I was like, what you don't want to sell wine in France? And he's like, no, I could care less about selling wine in France. I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, I sell where my wine is most valued. And I was like, really? Okay, that's kind of interesting. I'm like, so where's that? And he said, I sell it, you know, Tokyo, I sell it, and you know, like he just started listing off, you know, all of these cities around the world. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. You know, it's a different philosophy. Most people would, you know, try to keep it local or try to whatever. But I guess, I mean, there's only so much wine he can produce, and so, you know, take it to the people that appreciate it the most, I guess. And I guess maybe in some ways we've kind of adopted a little bit of that philosophy. I mean, we primarily our beer is sold, you know, in Wisconsin and, you know, kind of nearby states like Chicago or the upper peninsula of Michigan. But when I started talking to some people about exporting, especially people in you know, we did a trade mission in Mexico. We did to Japan, to Italy, to, you know, a bunch of different places. And you know, like the more you start talking to people, the more you realize we're all kind of the same, and we're all like in search of that one, like really that beer that just inspires you to drink a really good made beer. And so I kind of thought, well, you know, if the beer survives the trip and it holds up well, why the hell wouldn't we do it? So we did it. You know, we had an opportunity to export to Japan the first time, and we did the American craft beer experience over there. And I was pleasantly surprised with how the beer held up. We're doing something a little bit different now over there with Nagano Trading Company. They're actually like, instead of shipping the beer, they're flying it over, which is, you know, insane, but like awesome at the same time. And those guys have a really good handle on quality, and just their program is so solid. And they have a series of their own pubs, and yeah, it's an amazing thing. So
That's amazing.
yeah.
Does it translate into sales, or is it kind of like putting it on the shelf? It isn't exactly making you a lot of money, but it's giving you the opportunity for people to see the product. How do you make it a profitable venture? Is that something you're looking at and seeing if it works?
I think if we just sold it in a vacuum, you know, like and they purchased it and we just kind of dusted our hands of it and said, oh, now we're done, like would it be profitable? Yeah. I mean, what makes it not so profitable is going there and supporting the market and all of those things. But at the same time, I think that's a commitment that we're willing to do, because it's you know, let's face it, it's fun to go to, you know, these faraway places, but it's also really fun to connect with craft beer enthusiasts in a place like Tokyo. Like I can't tell you, like it's very invigorating again. You know what I mean? Like after 30 years of, you know, doing the same beer fest in Wisconsin or whatever, it's pretty cool to go to, you know, support your beer in Tokyo. And I think the idea is that it'll build into an actual, you know, sustainable market for us. And I mean, to be honest with you, I can't see how it won't really.
Sure.
They've got, you know, all the right levers pulled over there, and that's great.
How is the Japanese craft beer fan different than Americans? Do you guys have to adjust? Is there a different portfolio that you bring there? Did you have to kind of do some research, like this is what needs to be there?
It's IPA heavy for sure. But the Japanese love to hear the story behind the beer. They want to know the story. They almost have to know the story, you know? Yeah. And that's really cool. You know, like they're very engaged. And let's face it, like they perfect practically everything. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
I mean, there's some really interesting places to visit in Tokyo for beer, and they have all kinds of different ways to like pour, you know, beer and whatnot, and it's fascinating, you know. So, and the Japanese are making some great beer too. I mean, it's not like you know, but it's just I don't know.
Does it translate the other way? Is there anything there you guys learn there that you want to bring here?
Oh, I'm sure at some point in time there will be a lot. You know what I mean? And I'm always like, I'm such a foodie that like I'm always bringing ideas back to the restaurant and stuff. You know, so 100% that way. You know, but from a brewing production standpoint, or even just like a, you know, the hospitality of serving beer across the bar, they have some pretty cool spots. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, you touched on it, talking about being a foodie and the culinary experience here. You know, I enjoyed some of it before we started, and I really enjoyed it. What has kind of been the core element there? Like, how does food matter to you as a brew pub and bringing people in to sit down and have that experience with your beer?
It's everything, honestly. Like I to be honest with you, I never really understood the trend of just having a brewery and maybe a tap room and not having any food, or hiring a food truck to come and just, you know, I guess like give away all of your customers to this entity. I mean, great if it works for you, but like I've never understood that. First of all, I love the idea of cooking from scratch. You know what I mean? I love the idea of making really great food, and also like I'm a bit obsessive about it. You know what I mean? So I've kind of surrounded myself with people who are as obsessed or maybe more than I am. So we have a culture here where it's all we talk about. You know, we talk about making food, and we talk about making beer, and we talk about doing it in the most insane possible way you could. You know, and to me that's like that's like the best part of the experience of coming to work every day. Like, what can we do different?
Yeah. What is your involvement with the kitchen and being in there and having that communication with the brewery guys, with the kitchen, talking about like we want to have a menu that maybe it doesn't mean this beer goes with this food, even though that has kind of been some of the standard, but having a great lineup with a great lineup of food.
No, it's different than it used to be. I mean, there were days where I would, in the not, in the last, let's call it 6 years or something like that, where if they were down a guy, I would step in and work the pizza oven or work the grill or do something like that. I'm not that hands-on in the kitchen anymore. I'm very hands-on in the brewery. I'm still right now, like, we're down a few people, so I'm running the can filler on a daily basis, but I'm every day in the conversation of what's happening, what we're doing, how we're changing this, how we're doing that, what we did awesome, what we can improve on, like I'm really hands-on, so, and I there's a line where the owner being that involved becomes a pain in the ass and actually like, can stifle some growth. So I'm cognizant of that being, where that line is,
Yeah, because it's hard. I mean, it starts kind of with a very small team, sometimes a one-man team, and then you build it to something like this. It's hard to
at some point you
understand to let go.
Yeah.
So what about with, is there anything that you guys make that you absolutely like, if someone's coming here, they haven't been to Hinterland, is there a pairing that you push towards people? Like, you need to try this beer with this food, it's delicious.
I mean, yeah, like things that we're super proud of. For me, like my perfect, experience is like, I would have a pastrami sandwich and probably like our saison. And pastrami is off the rails, by the way. I don't know if you.
I didn't have it. I gotta have it. I gotta have it.
We are brining, smoking, somewhere between 500 and 800 pounds of brisket every week, and smoking it here, and man, it's like insane,
Yeah.
And with that beer, for me, it's like, you have like Gruyere and sauerkraut, and, like on the sandwich, it's like bonkers.
Nice.
Like, so good.
The smoker must be somewhere near the men's bathroom, because it is the best smelling men's bathroom I've ever walked into. The smoke just hit you and you're like, this smells delicious.
The thing with it, man, is like, here's the thing. It's like, it's for me, it's about being authentic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we put in, there's 8 fireplaces in this place. You know what I mean? Like, we cook everything over wood fire. And then on top of it, we have these 2 massive, wood burning fireplaces in the dining room that, the rule is if it's below 60 degrees, we're burning a fire. You know what I mean? So, but it makes a really cool experience, when it's cold out. Yeah.
Well, and like we were talking to the fact that you got to kind of plan out this place and make it what you wanted it to be. I mean, how many alterations were there in the planning process of what this brewery location was going to look like?
Oh God, I mean, we spent a year with an architect, designing every square inch of the place.
Yeah.
So there was a lot, at some point, budget becomes a situation, and then it's like, what do I take away and not lose the experience?
Yeah.
That was a big process.
Well, one of the things when I was going through the lineup, and I only got onto my second beer, there will probably be a few more after this, is the fact there's gluten-free options that you guys have now. How has that worked into the situation? Is it something that was thrust upon you, like this needs to be a part of the lineup? You feel that this was an important aspect to be able to bring on?
The story is like crazy. You wouldn't even believe me if I told you, but like I'll probably tell you anyway. But like it's so my daughter was going to law school. She was having some health issues and went to see a doctor, and they came back. The doctor said, "Hey, I want you to cut out all gluten and see what happens." You know what I mean? And so she called me, and she was also working for us that summer as a brand ambassador in the Milwaukee area and doing tastings and events and whatnot. So she called me up and she said, "Dad, I can't drink beer anymore." And I thought to myself, "Huh, that's crazy." Like I can't imagine what would cause this and that and another thing, but like it dawned on me that if it was happening this close to home, it was happening to a lot of other people. And I had just started to toy with the idea of making a gluten-free beer. I sat in a conference out in Nashville and listened to a woman give a talk about producing gluten-free beer.
I was there. Holidaily, right? Holidaily was
No,
talking?
this was
okay.
Twyla Souls from Grossmalt.
Yes.
And so I picked up the phone and I called Twyla and I said, "Hey, what would you think about collaborating on a beer together?" And I kind of explained the situation. And so we started to work on this beer. And as it turned out, my daughter ended up not having as severe as the situation as we thought, and she can consume some gluten. But it turned out that both of my sons are celiac, and and Grace wasn't. So we created this whole beer called Saving Gracie, and she turns out not even to be the one with celiac. So I mean, it was kind of a weird situation, right? But
yeah.
Through the process, what we learned is that this was just a piece of the puzzle a part of the business that kind of fell in our lap, but is like maybe the fastest growing part of our program. And so now we started with a juicy IPA, and now we have a brown ale, we have a Vienna lager, and we have our new sour berry, which is amazing. But yeah,
that's awesome. And again, it brings people in that might not have come in otherwise. You're making a sale.
It's unbelievable. We've since in our restaurant taken all of our fryers gluten-free and really catered to that community. And it turns out, like, you eat our chicken sandwich, you have no idea if it's gluten-free or not, but it is, and it tastes equally as crispy and delicious as the one with gluten in it. But so we don't, we just kind of just made that commitment to our customers to like just change every breading and everything over to that. All of our sandwiches obviously are still made with wheat bread or whatever, but if you ask for a gluten-free bun, you get one. You know what I mean? So like, and then pizzas, we have a gluten-free crust as well. So it's just one of those things that sets you apart a little bit.
30 years in, you guys are still here, like you said, on I'm assuming the daily basis. What makes you keep coming to work?
For me, it's just the possibility of doing something fun and new, and it's a challenge. Like I don't think I've got it all right yet. And so I'm still swinging for the fences on most of it. But this year was the first year we ever won a World Beer Cup medal, and that was one of the coolest experiences I think I've ever had. It happened to be on my birthday, which was epic.
That's fantastic.
Oh my God, yeah.
What beer was it?
It was a new beer that we created. It's called Alpenwald Alt Beer,
nice.
And
I did see that.
Yeah, it's nice. But yeah, it was like insane to win. Like something anyway.
Get to go on stage and
yeah,
shake Bart's hand. Did you get the sash?
Yeah. It was really cool.
Very cool. Well, that's awesome. I always like to end the podcast with some fun, off-the-wall questions that might have something to do with the brewery, might not. If your brewery had a mascot, what would it be, and what would it do?
It kind of does have a mascot. It's a 1962 Volkswagen van, and it is we call it Splitty. Right now, it sits in the warehouse a lot, but we've talked about kind of making it into a tap trailer for out on the patio or something. You know what I mean? But like yeah.
Nice. Well, we just finished up. You were talking about CBC here. I'm sure you take a swing through the trade show, there's always stuff there that you can grab. There's swag. There's things like on the tables. Is there anything that you like see you pick up because you want that? It's useful. Something you think is just like, that is useless. Why do people always bring these? What are your favorites and least favorites of swag at conferences?
My favorites are probably koozies because they always come in handy. Useless, probably all the candy that's on every table. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
All right, the final one. You get to host a beer dinner with 3 guests, dead or alive, beer people or not. Who's coming to your beer dinner?
Jerry Garcia. Michael Jackson, the beer guy.
Yep.
Anthony Bourdain.
There'd be beer drank there.
Yeah.
And some great food and some great conversation. That's awesome. You hit all your pieces too, I can tell you. Music, writing, food, beer.
Yeah.
That's a perfect trio with you. So,
yeah.
Well, thank you for sitting down at this table and talking on the podcast. We appreciate it.
Oh, it's a ton of fun. I'd do it anytime. Love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
This Brewer Mag podcast is sponsored by Keg Logistics. Now's the perfect time to review your keg management strategy. Whether you're seeking a truly flexible keg rental program or intrigued by the seamless distribution freedom of paper fill, Keg Logistics is ready to craft a personalized solution for you, ensuring you receive the kegs you need precisely when you need them. For details, visit keglogistics.com/brewermag. Keg Logistics, modern solutions for keg efficiency.